This is Mercy. That's not her real name, and we've also promised to protect her identity by obscuring her face. She was widowed 10 years ago and has been struggling to raise 3 children on her own and has had to sell her body to survive. And now she's living with HIV.
I grew up from village.
I grew up in the village. I and my husband were farmers. He is dead now. He was the only child of his parents. After his death, I stayed in the village, but I can't farm to raise the family. So I came to live with my brother. Then a lady came and brought me to the big city to work as a prostitute. Now I can feed and send my kids to school.
Myself and my children.
Joy has been a widow for more than 2 years and has been raising her 2 children single-handedly. She says her former husband infected her with the virus.
As my husband
died, leaving me with 2 children, there is nothing else I can do, and someone brought me saying she has a shop where she sells food. But when I started with her, I discovered there was more, so I joined them to make ends meet.
The most common disease among sex workers, obviously, because due to the nature of their trade, is STIs, of which HIV is one of them, and is also very, very rampant among them. It's very prevalent among them. All kinds of STIs, including the usual gonorrhea, chlamydia, syphilis, and then HIV.
Most orphans in Nigeria now became that way because of HIV/AIDS.
A major cause of orphanhood, as it is emerging, is due to HIV/AIDS. Parents and caregivers of these children, as they die or as they pass away, it leaves these children very vulnerable. You discover children that are very young becoming head of household. And when their caregivers or their parents pass away, there are implications. Sometimes they drop out of school.
The fight against the disease has been tough in Nigeria. A National Action Committee on AIDS was established in February 2000 to coordinate the various activities of HIV/AIDS in the country. Africa's most populous nation, with about 150 million people, reported HIV prevalence of 5.8% in 2001. That's second only to South Africa in sub-Saharan Africa. Nigeria has seen that figure fall to 4.4% today. This shows that efforts to halt and reverse the infection rate are paying off. But this is small comfort to the orphans, whose numbers continue to rise.
We have 17.5 million orphans and vulnerable children. That is orphans and vulnerable children. Then we have about 7.3 million orphans in Nigeria. Those are figures that we worry about. Now, you know the size of Nigeria. We have a lot of children, and that places a lot of burden and a lot of challenge for programmers to ensure that these children are taken care of.
Over the years, between year 2006 to date, we've had a decline in the prevalence rate of HIV in the country. While the national average now initially it used to be about 5.6, but now it has coming down and it's plateauing at between 4.4 and 4.5. I mean, what it indicates and means is that we're making some progress in the control of HIV/AIDS, but that does not mean that the total number of burden is not there. We still have very high disease burden. We still have children being orphaned as a result of HIV/AIDS, and we still have people, disability as a result of HIV/AIDS.
If we look at those data, the group that we know is a reflection of new infections, particularly between the ages of 15 and 24. We have seen a progressive decline in the prevalence in this age group from a peak of 6.0 in 2001 to about 3%, at the last sentinel surveillance in 2008. So it's a significant decline, and we are pushing further to ensure that we can actually come down much more drastically.
Mercy and Joy are being helped by a non-governmental organization, the Women's Health, Education and Development, or WED. They both got tested for HIV.
When I can't join with, they advise us to go and...
This organization encouraged us to get tested, so we went to the big hospital, and when they told me my status, I was devastated. My heart is broken. I got the virus from my late husband. I went for testing voluntarily, and since I was positive, I have been receiving free treatment and I'm living very well.
Working with sex workers is very interesting, it's challenging, and I will also say it's very fulfilling, because these are a group of people who are downtrodden by society, who are marginalized, who are considered outcasts. But when we get to know them, when we get to meet them and understand their issues, the problems they face, the challenges they face, and we work together to try to find solutions, you find fulfillment and you find yourself getting to understand where they're coming from and working together to find solutions to their problems.
Nigeria seems to be winning the war against HIV/AIDS. The United Nations believes that Nigeria will meet MDG Goal 6 of combating HIV/AIDS and other diseases by 2015 if further steps are taken. The main drivers of the virus in Nigeria include unscreened blood transfusions, unsafe sexual practices, and unsafe injection needles. And the stigma against people with AIDS remains.
We have managed to stop and reverse the trend of infections. However, that's a national aggregate for us. While we sort of applaud that in terms of its success, and we try to make sure that we further reduce the index below 5%.
We have a very good program for the HIV control, and today we are treating, clearly more than 350,000 people in this country, much more than, many other countries put together.
The overall goal of the HIV/AIDS policy in Nigeria is to control the spread of HIV/AIDS and to mitigate its impact to the point where it is no longer of public health, social and economic concern. The aim is that all Nigerians will be able to achieve socially and economically productive lives free of the disease and its effects. The MDG's office funds the National Youth Service Corps with about 1 billion naira used to train youth corpers to become MDG advocates on HIV/AIDS and family life education to upper primary schools. These youths help spread the message of abstinence as key to curbing the HIV/AIDS scourge.